I'm Mordecai.
And I'm Emma.
And we've been living in this camper for almost 2 years now. And today we wanted to share with you guys our story of how we got here, where we're going, and our tips and tricks of camper living, our thoughts about it, the pros and cons, and all that great stuff. So back in 2019, Emma and I bought our very first house. And then 2 years later, it appreciated for about $110,000 more than we bought it for. So we said, hey, let's sell that. We bought this camper, we bought some land, we moved the camper onto the land and started building our very own house. So with that being said, we wanted to talk about the pros and cons of camper living.
So some of the pros is, one, just getting to experience it. I really like. Tiny house living was kind of like a fad for a short little bit, and we got to experience it, so that makes me feel cool. But it was like
You're so
a really
cool, babe.
Thank you.
So cool.
It was just like a really cool experience, just like cutting out a lot of stuff. Like I didn't think we would downsize from where we were living previously, but we did.
The home that we sold, we owned a double wide, and next to that double wide was a 1-bedroom studio apartment. And so we actually lived in the studio apartment and rented out the double wide. We were already tiny house living, basically. It was about 400 square feet. And we went from that base to the camper, which is only like 180 square feet.
We have a little 6-month-old daughter as well, who will probably join us in a moment.
Yeah.
So that was a pro. It's also a lot cheaper living in a camper because, one, you can't use a whole lot of power and water because it's a small area. So that's been good. And also, we bought the camper straight out, so we don't have any like rent or anything like that. So it was really good for us. And where we moved it is on the same property that we're building the house on. So I get to go out and aggravate Mordecai pretty much on a daily basis whenever I'm not working, which I really enjoy a lot.
Yeah, because if we didn't live here while we were building, we would have to rent somewhere. And one, that would put me further away from work, not able to do as much during the day. And two, we'd be throwing money at somebody else's house. Do you want to come join the video? This is Magdalene.
Before we moved into the camper, and even like during our stay, like people had made comments about like you're gonna hate each other after this experience and just like negative things. But I feel like we really haven't encountered that. Like it's been great. It's been good.
So next, I guess we should go over some of the cons of camper living. I, for one, the very first thing would be the shower. One, there's not a lot of hot water, and two, I have to bend down to get my hair wet, to wash my face. And so I'm excited about having a regular shower when I finish building this house.
We actually made a giant, like 2-shower head shower.
Yes, we built.
We just swung the pendulum a little bit.
Yeah, we went from our tiny, barely squeeze your shoulders in the shower space to a 6-foot by 3-foot massive shower.
All these things, it just takes time getting used to. Like they're not like make it or break it, like, oh, this sucks kind of thing. It just takes time getting used to it. For me, it was just like downsizing in the kitchen. And because I really like to cook, I make most of our meals, but I used to do a lot of baking, and there's just not a very good oven, at least in our camper. Maybe some of the newer ones have better ones, I don't know. Like there is one, but it's very small, it doesn't heat evenly, and there are tips and tricks for that, but we personally just chose not to dig into that and figure it out.
And then we store everything in plastic bags, like Ziploc bags, gallons, quarts, sandwich bags, because in our tiny little refrigerator in this camper, it is very difficult to fit lots of Tupperware, and it's a lot easier to take your spaghetti and shove it into a bag and then put it in a little corner so it's over this and down under that than it is to fit a whole Tupperware of spaghetti in there or whatever it is that we're making. I know it's not saving the environment or anything, but
sorry.
We will be switching to Tupperware once we get into our house.
Also, another little weird thing about the fridge, and I don't know if this is all of them or just ours, but like in the wintertime when it's cold outside, our fridge tends to like freeze our stuff, which is manageable except for like produce. It makes produce go bad quickly. Like we have to eat our lettuce very quickly before
basically
the day you buy it.
Yeah, buy the produce and cook it.
But we learned that almost all other foods can be frozen and thawed out and still eaten. And they still taste pretty good. That's something we've experienced that you may or may not experience.
And then the other thing that was definitely harder to manage and get through was having an infant in the camper, which by the way, Magdalene was born in this camper. She was actually born in the bathroom of this camper. So she was born in the tiniest space of our tiny space.
Which was planned. Not necessarily the space, but
we were planning a home birth.
Yes, and that was fantastic. Like I had I was a little worried about having a baby in a camper. I would do it again.
But one of the hard things coming with a baby living in a camper is sleep at night. So when Magdalene is crying, we're both awake. There's no other bed that I can escape to for the night, or I can take Magdalene and let Emma escape for the night and get some good sleep. We're in it together. Thick or thin, loud or quiet, we're both up or asleep. That's definitely been a growing experience and something that we've had to figure out together. Another con that we experience that you may or may not, depending on where you're plugging your camper up to, but we're plugged into a 110 outlet on a 20 amp breaker. If we run the microwave and the hot water heater at the same time, it trips the breaker. That can be really annoying at night when you're trying to sleep. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Somebody gets cold and turns on the little space heater, but the hot water heater was on. And then all of a sudden the breaker trips and I have to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and go over to our house that we're building, flip the breaker back on so we can have heat or whatever else that we need.
That always happens when it's cold and raining.
Cold, raining,
The worst
windy,
times.
storms. That's definitely been an interesting aspect of camper life. The other thing would be it's quite difficult to have company over. If you have friends and you like hanging out with friends, make sure that you have friends that have a house that can invite you over, because here we can really only fit 2 people at a time, and even that's difficult. So we'd also like to share with you guys some of our tips and tricks outside of the pros and cons. One of those would be that we put our bed on little platforms, and we bought laundry bins, and we keep all of our clothes in laundry bins under the bed. That's eliminated a lot of space for a dresser, because even the dresser that is here, it's really just like a hanger closet thing that you can fit a few articles of clothing on.
So the bag trick earlier has been really good. Oh, yes. So another tip and trick, our coffee table, we actually no longer have a dining room table just because that's one of the things that we cut out along the way. So we use our coffee table as a dining room table, but as a chest, and so we have all of our blankets stored under there as well,
Right.
which is good because I like my blankets. I get cold. That's very convenient. We have a shoe rack because Mordecai likes his shoes.
And so we bought a shoe rack that has like 4 levels to it, and you can fit about 3 pair per level. And so we have that thing full. And so it definitely eliminates all the shoes going everywhere. And when you walk in the door, you don't want to be tripping over shoes.
We also bought these like little like the cube.
Yeah, they're
bookshelf
like
things.
cube bookshelves with little like
They have the cloth cube box
bins that
bags.
slide in and out.
Those are great. We like those.
That's been a great little extra thing to have for storage and whatnot in the camper. So overall, I'd say we really enjoyed this experience,
Yeah.
and I definitely would be open to trying it again.
If you're considering just moving into a camper for whatever reason that might be, if that's what you think is best for your family during this
Right.
season, I would say go for it. Like, it's definitely doable. All of the cons really just take time getting used to. They're not like,
None of them are make it or break it.
at
They're
least
all,
not for us.
yeah,
They're all like, you just get used to it and figure out what works for you and
Right.
your family.
right.
Um,
But we are excited about moving into our own house.
We are. It's been a good season, but we are ready for the next one.
Yes. And so now it seems like Magdalene is getting a little fussy. So the next step in our journey is to move out of this camper and move into our own house. And definitely make sure to subscribe so that you can follow along with the next parts of our journey.